everyone. It is day 100 um, of A Course in Miracles. We are almost a third of the way through, not quite.
That's exactly what I thought this morning.
Exercises have definitely been getting a little bit longer. Some of them are even like about 3 pages now compared to before where they were like half a page.
Yep.
So there's definitely a progression happening. We've had a few reviews by now. Um, the overall topics are getting more I don't want to use the word complicated, but maybe, but like they're having a little bit more layers, they're getting a bit more dynamic,
Yeah,
a little bit
dynamics are
more
great.
saucy. um I'm not gonna lie, I found today's have you read today's yet, or like number
I
100?
did, I did, I did. And now I have to remind myself though what it is. Because
So
it's still morning for
very
me.
very father and the son. So okay,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
so the word son and father has appeared, a couple times now, but it came in really strong today. Um, one thing that's okay. So I'm going to read the first sentence of this, or
Do it.
even yeah, okay, I'll read the first sentence. So it's lesson 100. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation, just as God's son completes his father. So your part in it completes your father's plan. Like that sentence itself really confusing because part of me thinking, okay, like God's son, and then they're saying his father. So like, okay, for when I first read the first half of the sentence, I was like, okay, so are they talking about like Jesus's father is Joseph, or
Mm.
like are they talking about like his father as God? And then but then when I read into like your part and it completes your father's plan, my understanding of that is my part completes God's plan, if that makes sense.
That's how I read it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um so anyways, yeah, it's getting also like I feel like a bit of my sexism things coming up again, like we're like, son and
Sure.
like can't it be like daughter and father or daughter and
I know.
mother? Like God's genderless. Like I wish this book was a little bit more genderless.
Right.
Uh Yeah, but yeah, how are you finding the exercises?
Good. I mean, we made it through another review.
Yeah.
I I didn't get a chance to do it yet this morning. I said to my husband this morning, I'm going to do something I have not done yet. I got to peek ahead. I'm not going to read the exercises or the lessons. I just need to know where the reviews are.
Yeah. And so you can kind of flag them so you
So
know.
I can flag them. And I compared it this morning to when you're working out with, you're at an exercise class, you're working out with like a coach or something. And they're like, we're going to do 20 reps. So you do the 20 reps. They're like, give me 7 more. And I'm like, but you said do 20. I did my 20. And that's what I prepared myself for. And so I really gave her my all in the 20. And I don't know if I've got 7. And they're like, okay, so you do the 7. They're like, give me 3 more. And I just want to punch them in the face.
Oh, totally. It's like you're
I,
lying now.
that's the words that came to me too. You're actually lying to me. And so, and not that I think that the course is lying to me. I just need to know what the plan is. And then I'm
Yeah.
going to put in just some little colored bookmarks where the reviews are coming. And then I'll feel prepared for them because I still feel like I get this momentum going and I'm loving this new lesson each day. And then it's like, oh, put the brakes on and we're going to review. If I just know that and I know where they are, where they land,
Then you're
I'll relax.
emotionally prepared for it. Yeah.
I'm emotionally prepared for it. Yeah. Yep. And then when you bring up the father son thing and the sexism stuff, which one was it? Now I'm not going to be able to find it. Oh man. Give me half a second. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's lesson 94.
Okay.
So the lesson is I am as God created me. Beautiful. Love it. And then the little like subtitle of it, right? When they have the lesson, with like how it's named at the top and in bold, and then there's some more words around it, right? So
Yeah.
you are as God created you, you are his son eternally. And I changed it to child. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
I
I
when
I
I
I agree. Like, yeah, stop with the son. Let's do the child. And like same with father, like it's just like parent.
yeah,
Yeah,
creator. Okay.
totally.
There's lots of other words, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, when I got to that, I'm like, oh, here we go again. And I'm like, okay, just change it. It's
Well, and like the other thing too is like okay, so like if you just flip the page to like to lesson 95, it
Mhm.
goes like I am oneself united with my creator, right? Which
Yeah,
is great. Like what a nice beautiful saying as like creator. Like so they do
yeah,
switch to the words we like crave, but again,
yeah,
just please get rid of son and father.
yeah.
I feel like
And
I'm left
I
out.
I guess, like just the opposite end of the stick for the people who those words like father and son and the word God even, that's what's very comforting for them,
Yeah.
right? We've chatted before about how like the book, the text is wordy and the lessons can get really wordy and they sort of repeat themselves.
Yeah.
And it can sometimes be annoying and sometimes it's really fantastic because like I'm not quite getting what the point is in sentences, 4 through 7, but at sentence 10 to 12, that's where I understand what's being said. And so they're just trying to encompass as many people, all the different people as possible, because this book is for everybody. It's
Yeah.
not right. And I was reading an article or something one time, and it was some sort of, I don't know what it was, but it was about A Course in Miracles. And maybe it's at the very beginning of the text. I can't remember. And they're saying it's too religious. It's not religious enough. It's too long. It's too short. Just everybody's got opinions about it, and that's okay. And it's great. And feel the way you want to feel about it. It is for everybody. Take from it what is yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that I have been finding because like and I wasn't that naughty of a student, but in the last I would say like okay, maybe like the last 10 lessons like like 90s like it's kind of like where like lessons started to get like much longer than they were before. Also
Yeah.
the wording I feel like has gotten more abstract a bit.
I agree.
There's a part of me that I'm like, oh, if if I did the other lessons better, or like if I didn't, skip a couple of them or whatever, like, where I just read them and didn't do them or whatever, would I have understood and would I be am I missing out now because I was a bad student earlier?
Mhm.
Some of those feelings are coming up, but I'm still like, I'm allowed to be a bad student. It's okay. Like,
And you're not being a bad student. You're there, you're learning, right? That's what the
yeah.
point of it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I've been noticing is I've been noticing myself feeling into it more. So these are the words of the lesson. What does it bring up in me? Like when I feel into it, what does it do for me?
Oh,
And
that's
so
nice.
on the, yeah, it does. It feels nice. I'm liking it a lot. So it was on lesson 92. Miracles are seen in light, and light and strength are one. And so then I just felt into it. This I listened to Marianne Williamson's recording, right? I just felt into it. And then I just, as words came to me, I just wrote them down. And it was all like something in strength. So like connection and strength, love and strength, like all the things that are one. And another one just came to me as I start to say this, and I don't think I've got it recorded here. No, something that oh no, I've got it. Vulnerability and strength,
Oh, nice.
right? You need to be very strong to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I've come up with, I don't know, there's 15 or 20 things that I wrote down. And I just closed my eyes, felt into it, and they just came bang, wrote it down. Then another would come, bang, write it down. And it was like, that's what that lesson feels like to me.
Yeah.
I'm loving that right now. The lessons are all 5 minutes every hour.
Yeah.
I we've chatted about this a few times, right? We like the hourly, the regular
The
amount of
consistency.
time,
Yeah.
that consistency, and it just knowing darn well we're going to miss some times here and there, and that's okay because that's real life. But I love that, like, I do the lesson while I'm in the car, I do the lesson while I'm eating breakfast, I do the lesson while I am with other people. I was visiting a new friend this past week, and my reminder went off on my phone, and it's this beautiful gong sound, and she's like, that was beautiful, what is that? What is that sound coming from? She's a very, very spiritual being and lived a very spiritual life. Her home, you can just feel it all, right? So she
Yeah.
has things like this in her house, and all of a sudden this gong goes. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing a Course in Miracles, and it's my reminder for the lesson of the day. She's like, oh, what's the lesson of the day? And so, because I'd been doing a good job of being on it and doing it all day, I was able to tell it to her. I was able
Oh,
to
that's
share that with her. And so that just feels really nice, that it's like, we've chatted about this before too, that when you integrate things into your life, actually,
yeah. Yeah.
right? I think that's where the real learning really starts happening.
Oh, it makes a huge difference. And I think as
Yeah.
well, like, because I kind of went through a little bit of a period there of like burnout where my life just went, I had these exciting opportunities and my life just went
Yeah.
crazy busy.
Yeah.
And you like I crave that practice, and it's the when you allow yourself to get like overly busy where you're emptying out your cup too much, you're not able to do exercises like this and properly integrate them into your life. You
Yeah.
have to slow down a little bit to allow things to integrate. If you're so go, 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 and you don't take time to look both ways or backwards or whatever, or to pause, you do miss the integrations. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. And I think too, just like any other practice, like if it's a meditation practice or a yoga practice, or you always eat breakfast and have tea in the morning, whatever it is, those foundational things that just provide this really great steady part in our lives, so we can bounce up and be doing these big exciting things and then land here again. But we can also go down
Hmm.
and be exhausted or depressed or sad or whatever, and know that that foundation is still there,
Yeah.
but we need to rise ourselves up to it a little bit.
Yeah,
And it doesn't
absolutely.
mean that we have to, get out of our depression or stop feeling sad or whatever it is. It just means that we need to, like, get our head up and recognize that it's there, and then just reach for it and utilize it again,
Yeah. And
even if it is just for moments.
100%. And I think like this is not to encourage people to like to compare themselves to others, but when you're in meditation class, an intuitive class, a yoga class, whatever, when you see someone where they feel like where you feel like they're getting ahead really quickly, or that they're advancing, or they're like something seems to be clicking in, like their skill set just seems to be skyrocketing,
Yeah.
that person is integrating it. They're taking the time to integrate it.
Yeah.
And that is essentially like the difference. And some people, it takes a bit more time and effort to integrate. Other people, a little
Yeah.
less effort is required for integration. But that is the key. That is the key component. Is whoever attempts to integrate it, those are the people that they're they're like getting it. They're trying it out. They're playing around with it. They're experimenting with it. They're turning it over on top of its head.
Yeah.
And they can choose what they want to keep or leave with it. But
Yeah.
it is you are actually developing yourself a beautiful toolkit.
Yeah. Even if you don't fully maybe get what the lesson is,
Yeah,
or that you just come at it from your lens and somebody else speaks to it and their lens is different, don't ever think that your lens is wrong. Your
totally.
lens is your lens, and that's what you were there to learn from that lesson. So, like, you could finish a lesson and be like, man, I don't know that I quite, like, did that, like, quote unquote right or whatever. right? Or I didn't spend as much time. It's okay. It's okay. You spent what you did, you integrated as you did, and on to the next one. It's okay.
And we're always learning. Like that's the other thing. Like, and even if we're like, okay, I did it, but I think I did it completely wrong, you still
Yeah.
learn something from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I like that in the wording for the lessons right now. So like you said at the beginning, we're at lesson 100, and the words light, miracle, and salvation are repeating themselves right now too, which I love. And I was having lunch with another lady in my life who is just, she's a powerhouse. She's just amazing. And I mentioned to her that you and I were doing A Course in Miracles, and I had asked her, have you ever done it? No, she said, but I've heard so much about it. And we started chatting about salvation. Oh, she's like, what are some of the lessons? And so I like showed her like the last three that we had just done, the last 3 days previous, and the word salvation was in there. And so she asked me, what does salvation mean to you? And so I wanted to ask you, Chantal, what does salvation mean to you?
Oh, I've been struggling with this one. It okay, salvation. I think a big part of salvation is forgiving yourself. It's not just. I think that's, and there's something about it where it feels like that's just the beginning of it. But I feel like that there's no salvation without self forgiveness. The two seem like very, very closely related to me, and it feels like there is something about salvation that also feels like righting a wrong, but that seems that's like too simple. That not too simple. That's kind of like downplaying it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because that like isn't accurate. It's like what okay, wanna know what it is? It's like raising a frequency through self forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the easiest way to explain it is raising one's frequency through self forgiveness. What about you?
I love that, Chantal. I love that. And I love that you bring in the whole like righting or wrong. It's that they use the word correction in here, and I love that.
Because it
And
like
I
but like it feels like it doesn't feel like this was terribly wrong. It feels like
Yeah,
tweaks, like it's just
it's
like these
like,
like beautiful little tweaks.
yeah, and a whole the energy around it is the whole, so you know different, so you're going to do different.
Yeah.
Just a correction. And like, and when I think of correction, I don't think of like the spelling test when you were a kid and you got it marked wrong, and so you had to go in and you had to write it out 25 times, which never worked for me anyways. I still can't spell. And not a correction like that, but maybe like I think of it as like a course correction.
Yeah.
Like you're going down this path and you learn this new thing and you're like, oh, interesting. And it influences your path.
Okay. I love that you said that. I'm getting tingles all over. Um, did you read Atomic Habits?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So for anyone who hasn't,
Great book.
Atomic Habits talks about the British cycling team and how they were terrible and kept on losing all these races, and they were basically like the laughing stock. And they had a coach come in, and the coach was obsessed with like 1% changes. He wasn't into like, okay, if these people will do this, it'll increase their speed by 10%. It was like, what will change things by 1%. And so he believed in doing tons of different things that would change the course by 1%. And so and then the British cycling team ended up being really fantastic and like hard to beat, and people started to take on something like they started to do things that completely changed the course and how people train for cycling. So with that, if you think of a plane, if it's 1 degree off, it ends up in a completely different country. So 1% over a long period of time makes a huge drastic difference. So these little tweaks, these little corrections adjusts you, let's say even by 1%, in 10 years time from now, it's changed your course absolutely completely. And, you know, with this book, I would like to believe, and I do believe that it changes your course for the better.
Yeah, I love that. And so Atomic Habits is by James Clear. Amazing book.
Thanks for saying
Amazing book.
that.
He also has a weekly newsletter that is fantastic.
Ooh, I need to sign up for that.
It's done so simple, so well. It's really, really good.
I'm gonna write a note down to do that.
What is it? I can't remember. He has this little formula, and it's a newsletter that you can read in just a few minutes, but gain a lot from. It's like that 1%, really. Like it's that little chuk, chuk each week. It's really great.
Oh, I love emails like that.
Yeah,
I'm trying, I myself right now, I'm like trying to have the courage to do a monthly newsletter.
me
I
too.
don't like to give people lots because I personally don't like a weekly email. That being said, that there's like a handful, like one or two that where I'm like, I will not delete those emails, like they're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah, stuff like this where it's like I don't want to waste people's time. Like I want them to be able to like open it, have a quick little like through
Yep.
and like absorb whatever they absorb, and like, I want it to be this like beautiful resource in their life, not just taking up
Something
digital
that they need
space.
to delete. And they wonder why they keep letting it even come into their inbox and why they don't just move it to junk, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so when my friend asked me about salvation,
Hmm.
what comes to me is connection, love, forgiveness. So like connection with the divine, whatever the divine means to you, any higher power, and then just what that feels like, and then really sinking in and feeling that unconditional love
Yeah.
that the divine has for each of us, no matter who you are. And that in that connection and in that wash of love is where the forgiveness starts to have like a garden to grow in. And I agree, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of all sorts of things, right? Like it's just, and then from that, the light then and the love and the connection just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so then it helps the forgiveness get bigger, and it flows back and forth. And it is that then all of that affects your course, your journey, and it's little course corrections, little tiny ones. Yeah, that's what I think of. And I don't know how many times that since we've started this adventure that I've looked salvation up again and again and again. And the other day when I did it again, I went, stop doing this. What does it mean to you? Like, you know what it means to you. Don't worry about what a Google search brings up anymore.
Well, and I think like you and I have talked about this, I think in earlier episodes where with A Course in Miracles, very much the words change their meaning as you read it, but also they don't go with the dictionary definition. It is,
No,
yeah.
right?
So it is the however you're interpreting it is the correct way at that moment.
Right. Another example of feel into it. What does it feel like for you?
Yeah.
Right. And then, like I said, the word light is showing up again more here and there. And I love that word. I use it a lot in a ceremony I do when I prepare to work.
Oh, that's nice.
And so I wanted to ask you, what does light mean to you?
Okay. It has like okay, it doesn't have just one meaning.
No, go for it. I want to hear it.
So, okay, I like back in the day, I really wanted to be a physicist. So for me, like, there's definitely the aspect of light where, like it's like this beautiful wavelength. But the okay, how I picture source is like this pillar of energy that is traveling through this like huge universe, or like this black space that's just, it's just this beautiful pillar of light. And I feel like we have separated from, because of free will, we have like separated from like source
Yeah.
energy, so this beautiful pillar of light, and have become, um so like light waves, they have, like through science or in physics, it's like both wave and particle. And we have become, the further we have separated from source energy, the further we have turned into particle and mass. And so with light, it feels like it is source energy. And the more light you are, the more wave you are, the more you are closer to source energy. So when I do like visualizations, it's feeling myself, when I feel myself fill up with light, it is me feeling closer to source energy, um becoming more source energy. So yeah, it's light and source energy are kind of like the same, but also like light can also feel like the right path, or like a soul's journey as well.
Mm-hmm.
um like finding your own light, like finding your own confidence, finding spirit within you and letting that shine. um so yeah, but yeah, multiple meanings to me, but I think if I were to narrow it down to the end of the day, it's very much source energy would be light to me. But then depending on the context, it kind of changes with the spectrum of light, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then how do you feel when you are connected with that light?
um it feels like a beautiful warm hug, honestly. It just, and it feels very loving, like so loving, and just all of the good things all at the same time. um and it it feels like, it feels like it's a hug from like more than one person, if that makes sense. Like it doesn't feel like it's like
Mm,
a one person hug. It feels like you're experiencing love from like all these different things and people. And uh it yeah, the light feels loving, it feels healing and comforting, and it just feels like a lot of good things mixed
yeah.
together. But and there's a nice like weightiness to it, like sort of like how lots of people like weighted blankets now. There's a
Yeah.
bit of that to it. It has that, like it has a bit of like a weightiness to it that's like, but like the most comforting weightiness
Yeah.
you could feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
What about you?
What it means to me, what light means to me, and I so picture it visually as well, like when you're explaining it, how you feel into it and what it means to you. Very, very similar and very much so. Again, I just see the lift of the head, like just being that, just that open up to the connection, knowing that the connection, that the vibes, the light, the energy, the whatever you want to call it, it's always being sent to us. And it's our responsibility just to look up or to plug into or connect to, or however you want to say it, to it, because it's always there.
Yeah.
And it's us through separation and free will that have turned away from it, or closed our eyes to it, or bowed our head down and don't see it, or whatever it is, right? And so it's that opportunity to connect, and that when you do, that it's really instant, how it shows, how it is just there for you. And then for me, how it feels is so much like what you said. I feel so held, so supported. And what really came through for me one particular day was, it's so unconditional.
Yes.
Even if I feel like crap over here because there's all these things going on that are just overwhelming and scary and sad, or whatever's going on, at the same time feeling really fantastic because I feel so held, so supported, and so unconditionally loved.
Yeah.
And that's what it means to me. And then when I really feel into it and it feels all those good things, like you were saying, I just find that it just radiates out from me then.
Yeah.
And like part of my ceremony is my hope that as I shine my light, that it encourage others to shine theirs. That we become that conduit for that connection, that light, that love, and just shine it out from us.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like and means to me.
That is really beautiful. And like I feel like with light, and maybe this is like because of all like the visualizations we like practice and stuff like that, but I do feel like
Yeah.
you can adjust the density of it as well. And the
Oh,
like the like density and then intensity, and like even if you like think about when you know imagine like the visualization of like a pillar of light and it's filling up your body, and then let's say you have like a little like a little tension in one part of your back. You can send the light there and get it to like you can still feel it in the rest of your body, but it gets denser in that one area and helps to kind of take away what's not serving you. You can shift it. You can let it like I can turn my light into almost liquid at points where it feels like it's like dripping out, like
yes. Yes.
and then like other times it feels like it's like especially when I do like heart ones where it starts from the heart and fills my whole body and like grows out past me, and I really try to like make it dense. Then it almost has a like a jelly,
Mm-hmm.
like almost like a gummy bear texture, like but like almost like I want to say like the brand Haribo where it's like a little bit, it's not so like soft, like it's like this hard gel almost.
Yeah.
It kind of like it feels like there's parts of it that has that density to it, right? Where I choose what then comes into the light or like out of it, or it's you can play with it so much. And
Yeah.
I think especially like how we learn about light in like school and science or whatever, you don't think of it as something that can change density and weight and but yet like you can like for me when I visualize I can really feel it. I can feel it absolutely transform. And I think this is also where you go like part particle, part wavelength is
Yeah.
you're playing around with the will the light be more mass or will it be more light, or you know I think you're playing with a is it the duality of it, or like I'm not
Mhm.
entirely sure, but like yeah, you're playing with the different qualities of what a light particle is, right? And um there's this very, very interesting TED talk. I need to find it because I saw it like once and I've never been able to find it again. And I don't know why it's not more viewed. But there's this man that created this really, really tiny little thing. It's like a little piece of metal or something like that. And with it, he's been able to prove that you can be in two places at once, essentially. um,
Oh.
and that like and it goes back to proving like lights like part particle part wavelength, and yeah, you can have a particle be in two spots at once. And it's yeah with this like very, very tiny filed thing that he's created. um Anyways, and it's absolutely fascinating. And like what I love about spirituality is, and physics especially, the two really line up. And like the deeper you go down it and the more you talk to like the more you talk to physicists, the further and further they get, and the more, I don't know if it's the more theoretical or the more knowledge they have, the more it links up to spirituality. Like it's amazing how, because I think people traditionally think scientists aren't very religious, but
Hmm.
if you look at like Einstein, Tesla, if you look at many of these like very genius scientists, they're actually quite religious. Like and the math and the science and the physics line up with spirituality so much. Like it's
So
it's just
much.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. It makes me so happy.
Yeah. I love that you can speak to it too. I'm not able to. It's not my thing. But when you were talking about the density, it made me realize how much I changed the density. Because sometimes for me it's smoke.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like melted wax. Sometimes it's water. right? And sometimes it's super, super light, like it is. I do change the density too, and
Yeah.
didn't really think of it as density, just different versions of light. But it's the density.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
love that.
I'll be very interested after reading A Course in Miracles. There forever ago I tried to read this book by Stephen Hawking's, and it's supposed to be one of the easier ones to read. I That's a lie. It's not very easy to read, but it's called The Brief History of Time, or The
Hmm.
Briefer History of Time. It's a small book, but it's it's wild. Like, they talk about time cones and how time, anyways, this and that, blah blah. It is wild, but I'd be very interested to go back and read like one of like those old physics books that I read when I was like early 20s, 19 years old or something like that, and like see how my understanding has changed with it now that I'm much more spiritual. Because back then I really wasn't spiritual at all. I did meditate though, and I did lots of yoga, but I was not a spiritual person at all. Like, I
Hmm.
even like the word God, people talking about God, I couldn't understand why people were religious. I was just on a whole nother. I was just young.
You were young. You were young, and you were on that young person's journey. You were on the young person's part of your journey, right? And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it. There's just nothing wrong with it. It is really interesting to go back and look at ideas that we've had or books we've read or any of those sorts of things, and it doesn't matter what the topic is or what lens you're going to look at it with now. It's just your more experienced lens, I guess you could say, and to look back at it and go, oh, I missed this part completely. This, I thought it meant this, but it's actually this. Like all of those sorts of things. My mom and dad were here last night, and my mom and dad love to reminisce. They love it. They love telling old stories, and they're both good storytellers. My dad especially is a really good storyteller, and he was telling a story about a time that we were moving, and his version of it, and it started to like bump against my version of it, and I was like, oh no, no, I don't want to hear this. I don't want it. I don't want it to change my memory. And then as I listened a little bit, he said a couple more words and it clarified something for me. I'm like, oh, you mean after we picked out the house, then you lived in it for 2 weeks before mom and I got there. Mom and my sister and I got there. He's like, yeah. Like, oh, I thought you meant that you had already been living in the house and then we went and saw it for the first time, because I
Okay.
just remember the day that we went and like picked that house is just a huge memory for me, and I just did not want his memory bumping up and changing mine at all. I didn't want that lens changed.
Okay, have you ever had it? And I wish I had a really good example of this, but I feel like, okay, it's very hard to remember when this happens. When you thought like, okay, when something happened when you were like 5 or 10 years old, like really young, and okay, actually no, this is this is a better way to explain it. You've seen Mrs. Doubtfire, the movie?
Yep.
Okay, as a kid, when you watch it, there's a whole lot of jokes that just pass you by, but the adults laugh. And then you get older and you watch that movie again, and you're like, oh, okay, there's a lot more jokes that I can understand now and appreciate. So, like as a kid, there were certain things that, like, I don't know, like a funny situation or whatever, and I was so convinced that like this is what happened. And then as I get older, I look back and I'm like, oh, I totally misunderstood what happened then. And like as an adult, you're like, you can then realize like, oh, okay, like I don't know, like that person wasn't being mean, like they were just like,
Yeah.
talking about something completely different that I just didn't understand, or it's or like they were just worried, or whatever it was. And a few years ago, like I would think back to when I was younger, and like there were so many things where I was like, oh, I didn't like that memory of, I've been looking at it through a child's lens for so long now. I'm able to look at it through an adult lens, and it's like, oh, that is completely different. And I kind of miss the child lens, but you can't undo the new realization.
I
So that's
know.
where it's even hard to remember when when you experience these things, because you're like, it almost forces you to forget how you viewed it as a child, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And we all have so many examples of it, like just so many examples of that. I remember, again, I was with my mom and my dad, and we were visiting family friends that lived in a different part of the province here. And she was getting ready to host a baby shower. And so she was getting some things ready for this baby shower. I didn't know what a baby shower was. I knew it was for a new baby. That's all that I knew. And that I loved babies. I knew that, those two things. And we ended up, I'm looking back, I know that we left, we finished the visit and we were traveling back, and we stopped somewhere along the way to use a restroom. But I think it was like a truck stop restroom where there was like showers available and different things. I remember being in it with my mom and thinking, it's the baby shower.
Yeah, it's time to shower now.
And then being confused. There's no baby. I don't, and I kept it all to myself. Like I wondered all of these things, but I wasn't the kid that asked a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so funny. I love it.
it is. It's those, when you were talking about Mrs. Doubtfire, what came to me was I don't know if you know the band Dr. Hook. It's a Canadian band, I'm pretty sure. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Anyways, and their lyrics are interesting. And I grew up knowing how to sing these songs. Was it appropriate for me to know the words of these songs? No, it was not. However, it was what it was. And and then we went through a period of time where we lived without power, because we were out on a homestead and we didn't have power and everything, right?
Yeah.
And we moved, had power again, and my mom and dad, anytime we would move, the first thing that got set up was the stereo. And so the stereo set up, and they put Dr. Hook on, and I'm singing all the lyrics to this song. I now know what the lyrics mean, and I'm shocked and horrified. It's just what that perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just changes. It just changes.
Oh, totally.
Now,
Or like,
I'm just gonna ask, you can't hear my dog barking, can you?
no, no, no.
Okay, okay, good.
Yeah.
Just making sure my mic is still set up that way.
Yeah, you were good.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's like even so I for those who I guess we didn't hit record then, but I just got back from a trip in Italy, and there was a man on the retreat I was at who studies popular music, and I was asking him about like like when musicians behave badly, does that should we not then listen to the music, or like can we separate the person from the art, or this and that? And he said some very very interesting things. I won't do it justice, but it got us talking about how when we're younger, because kind of in our teenager years we get very obsessed with music, and um we might like a song, but like just for the bass line, like and nothing else of it, but it's just the bass line or just the drumming or just one lyric. And like we'll love that song, but just for that one lyric. And so yeah, so and then you get older or whatever, and you go back to listen to those songs, and then sometimes you're like, okay, like I don't like that song anymore. Like it's super like misogynistic, or it's like, ooh, like, but when you were younger, you didn't necessarily listen to it for all of the lyrics or for the whole song. You listened to it for the bits of the song. Um, where was I going with this? But yeah, I think as we get older, like the perspective of it changes, or we understand the the other effects that the whole song has, but rather than just like the individual bit of it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That our experience lens just looks at it differently.
Yeah,
And it's okay that we enjoyed that song just for the chorus when we were
absolutely.
14 years old. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Good.
Was there a particular, so back to like traditional questions we have, was there a
Yeah.
particular exercise out of the last little while that has completely stood out to you, or one that you, yeah, stood out, good or bad?
Yeah. So it was 92 that I had mentioned,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I loved that one. Oh, I am as God created me. Lesson 94.
Yeah.
That just felt, it felt like it was a piece of forgiveness that I had not explored yet. Forgiveness of self that I had not explored yet.
Yeah.
And um that all the different parts of me, whether the light or the shadow, however you want to look at it, like the good or the bad, however you want to look at it, all those parts of me, they're as intended. And that those parts of me, all the different ones, are really essential for me as a spiritual being to have a human experience here and to have some gratitude for those parts that maybe I don't like as much because they really help within, not help, but they're part of the experience.
Yeah.
They are part of the experience and part of the learning. So send some gratitude to those parts of me that maybe aren't my favorite.
Yeah.
And so I really liked that. Like that's where I don't remember what A Course in Miracles lesson necessarily was around all of that. That's what I got from it,
Yeah.
right? That, yeah.
I have noticed in the last like 2 weeks that the exercises for me have gotten very, um a lot of self-forgiveness, a lot of self-reflection, and um like I've noticed, like on this retreat, I noticed a huge shift in, certain things that people would have said that would have triggered me before, or that I would have taken way too personally. I'm not taking them personally anymore at all.
Yeah.
Or so I've been able to like notice shifts in that. I've also been able to notice like areas where I'm like, oh, I don't forgive myself for this, or like I'm not kind to myself with this aspect of myself. So there's been a lot of, I feel like in like the last, 2 weeks, it's been very like eye opening and
Mhm.
new. It feels like, okay, because I feel like when you've done a lot of inner work, sometimes it's like, oh, okay, I need to go back and like tweak, like it is time to revisit this aspect. And there comes a point where it feels like that there's a lot of revisiting. I feel like in the past 2 weeks it's been more like, oh, these are new things I didn't know that I needed to explore now. And so
I
to me it's
totally
also really
agree.
exciting because it's like, I mean, it's exciting, also it's kind of like, oh god, new
Uh, yeah.
new trauma. But yeah, there is like there are new things now to explore. It doesn't feel like, okay, I'm you know always going back to burnout or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
it is, I feel like that there are new pieces to the pie now
Yeah.
that I didn't know
And
was there.
and I'm guessing that as you, because we've both said, forgiveness of self and things of self and more information about ourselves. And when we have more information about ourselves, we, our view and how we perceive others, also then we bring that lens into it as well,
Yeah.
and how we experience other people. And knowing that that if I am as God created me, so and so is also as God created them.
Yeah.
And I love that part of it too.
And like all of it, it just makes it easier to forgive other people, or to like let go of
Yes. Yes.
whatever their
Go
shortcomings,
with
whatever it
peace.
is. Like,
Yeah.
it's um it does, to to be able to let go of the part of you that gets disappointed in others is
Oh my
is
gosh.
lovely. Like,
It's so lovely. It lets everybody off the hook,
yeah,
right?
totally.
Oh, I know. When I recognize the part of me that is gets disappointed in others, I was like, holy Lifton, like where does this come from? And it was a lot of work to uncover all of that. And it made sense when I got there and all of those things. But to just keep adding some tools to that lens of me, oh, just feels so good.
Yeah.
It just feels so good. I had a just in the realm of forgiveness, I was working with one of my groups and one of my quilting groups and um teaching some tools around forgiveness. And one of the things that I had mentioned and that one of the women brought back to me just saying that helped me immensely was when we're having a hard time forgiving somebody in our lives. We're working on it, we're trying, but it's just not, that it's just hard to do. Like, what if you pictured them as a little child, knowing darn well that there's a chance that it's their wounded child that's acting out and it's that version of them that hurt you. And she was just like, I'd never thought of it like that before. And it helped her immensely. And she was able to share about it, just her experience in that moment of that realization really beautifully.
Yeah.
And it just is. All of us here on this planet have all been children. All of us here on this planet have all hurt each other, whether unintentionally or intentionally. And so often, the part of us that inside part of us is our wounded child reacting in a way that ends up hurting other people,
Yeah.
whether it's intentional or unintentional. And so we love up our inner child. And when we're working on forgiveness of others, love up their inner child as well.
Yeah.
And actually picture them as a young child and send that part of their spirit, their soul, their energy, the love, the forgiveness. And it's just, if it's very, the person was an adult and you were an adult when this happened, it's a little, it just eases it up. And it just sort of feels like an inroad into forgiveness instead of like trying to think of this person at 35 hurting you. Just think of them younger.
Oh, totally. Because it's so easy. Like naturally, we forgive children way easier because it's like,
Yeah,
oh, like they're just learning, they don't
they're
know
just
better, blah
learning.
blah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like we expect children to be messy and make mistakes.
yeah,
For some reason, we don't allow that nicety to
to
adults.
adults thinking that they know better, right? But are they showing up as their grounded, aligned, connected self? When we're connected, aligned, and grounded in all of those great things, we're not doing things to hurt people.
Yeah.
We're just not. And we're not doing things that are hurting ourselves either.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a line. I don't know, sorry, if it was right in the book or if it was from Marianne Williamson, but it was on lesson 95 is where I have the note.
Uh-huh.
And it's just in patience and hope we try again today. And I just love that so much.
To
Just
me,
in patience.
that sounds like Marion Williamson, but
It
that
does to me too.
yeah.
Yeah, just in patience and hope we try again today. And the lesson that it goes with is I am one self united with my creator. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really loved that line.
Um, on Audible, Marion Williamson has some uh there's like different ones, but she has some like meditations and stuff like that. They're lovely. I like so every once in a while, like I'll play one of them, and some of them are really short. Some of them are like 5-7 minutes long. The other ones are much longer. Um, but she has quite a like I find with like most meditations, people are like, okay, now close your eyes and da da da. She's like and blah blah blah. Like it's like she's very like passionate, and like her voice goes like up and down, and like she kind of takes you on this beautiful roller coaster, and it's like you can everything she says has so much emotion in it. And like the first time I played it, it was like it was kind of like, oh, like okay, like because it's just it's just not what you get off of Insight Timer. And yeah, no, it is absolutely lovely, and I've um it's it's also has shown me and taught me that I don't need to have this monotone, relaxing da da da
Yeah.
voice when I do meditations. I can speed it up and slow it down, and I can
That's how
take
I
you
lead
on a roller
mine.
coaster. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I think it's my years of being a storyteller. Like I was a children's librarian for years. And before that, I was in daycare for years. I was paid to tell stories. And
Yeah.
so my voice, and when I lead meditation, it builds and it falls and it does all sorts of things all over the place.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely.
Well, do we feel like we've covered these 2 weeks worth of lessons?
Yeah, I think we have hit it. So thank you everyone. That's a wrap for today.